Hey, it's Ryan Seacrest. Life comes at you fast, which is why it's important to find some time to relax. A little you time. Enter Chumba Casino. With no download required, you can jump on anytime, anywhere for the chance to redeem some serious prizes. So treat yourself with Chumba Casino and play over 100 online casino-style games, all for free. Go to ChumbaCasino.com to collect your free welcome bonus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Patty Daly.
Well, happy Friday, Mozzie Friday in the St. John's metro area. Sorry to all burst your bubbles. It's Brian Callahan in this morning to end off the week here on Open Line. Patty had another engagement this morning, so short notice. Off the top of my head, here I am. And thank you, Dave. Dave in Behind the Glass. So we have that normal piece of the show here. So Dave should be able to keep them all running on cylinders if I can remember not to walk all over all the various stings and intros and outros that you have to deal with here. I listen from time to time, but, we're busy in the morning, so hopefully I don't mess it up for Patty. So I was looking in awe the other day of an old photograph, an aerial shot, actually, of the War Memorial here in St. John's, taken in 1924, of course, on the occasion of its birthday. And, this photo, and I'm sure most of you have seen it, been circulating well on socials. It's just amazing all around. The formation of thousands, tens of thousands. But what really got me, and just completely surrounding the entire War Memorial, it's an aerial shot. If you had a crane on Water Street looking down, that's what it would look like. A drone today, never had them back then, but would spell it out. But it's just the mass of people, the formation of the different pockets of soldiers, thousands. But what really got me were the crowds on the rooftops, on top of the buildings, on Duckworth Street, on top of, say, where Fred's is now, and all those shops. Just amazing, wherever they could get a vantage point. And, of course, that was in the moment back. That would have been just 8 years removed or 6 years removed of the end of the First World War. And it just, obviously, the moment then would have been something. And who knows, we may even see that on Monday with the amount of people who are expected to be at the St. John's War Memorial, the National War Memorial here in St. John's. What will be no question, a generational moment for every Newfoundlander. Anyone ever born and raised here, no matter what you may think of war, these were our future at the time, human beings. Could have been you, could have been me, if we'd been dropped into another time and place and era. But, the blood's in us, the Newfoundland blood, and these were this unknown soldier, and I can't imagine. I see the Prime Minister will be here on Monday as well. And very, of course, awful, unfortunate accident suffered by Princess Anne that will prevent her from being here. Personally, I think it's going to be like something I've never felt before. VOCM's Richard Duggan and I will be there for VOCM on Monday. I doubt we'll be able to find a dry eye, but I expect it will be much deeper than that even, and I really don't think there's any way to prepare for it. You listen to some of the people who were in France recently to bring this unknown Newfoundland soldier home, and he is home now. And there's an element, a deep element of spirituality that I really can't, that people really haven't been able to put into words, and I'm sure that anyone born and bred here will feel that on Monday. It is really going to be something that most of us have never felt before. So in any event, that's Monday when it should be warm, but there is, of course, chance of showers. I'm always of two minds of that. On the one hand, sunshine would be nice, but maybe some cloud actually would be more fitting. And I was listening to Richard Duggan earlier this morning actually talking about how all this will play out. Starting today, of course, the remains of our unknown soldier will be lying in state at Confederation Building. There'll be a ceremony there with the arrival, and then public visitation begins this afternoon and throughout the weekend, leading up to Monday. And all the details, of course, on what you need to know will be just follow VOCM on our website and on the air. So everything, of course, sort of pales in comparison to that, but I will throw out a couple of other topics briefly. We already have some callers in the queue, so I'm not going to go on for any length of time. I'd be remiss, of course, if I didn't mention the U.S. presidential debate last night. I'll tell you, cringeworthy seems to be the overriding sentiment that I've heard this morning. I watched it, as difficult as it was at times to watch the only two choices that Americans and the world has, the free world has, come November. And boys, oh boys, I find these debates ridiculous anyway. People making up their minds for president over who might land the best zinger over 90 minutes. I mean, surely we can't just judge that person by that debate and how he responds in the moment. What goes on in the Oval Office, of course, is always more important. The Democrats are worried, though, after Biden's performance, and it was hard enough for me just to hear him. I mean, a very gravelly voice last night. I wonder if he was under the weather and if they even considered canceling, but quieter and gravelier than usual, really. But really had all the ears of hate to say it, but, a very tired old man with zero energy. None of this should come as any surprise to the Democrats, of course. It's been warned about this for some time. Anyway, U.S. politics, if you want to go in. And then there's commercial cod fishery, of course. Ballyhooed as the return of commercial cod fishery, the end of the moratorium. I don't know if 18,000 tons qualifies for that, and the meager amount that will be split between inshore and offshore. You want to go at that topic this morning in the FFAW's contention that they were supposed to have first dibs at this, but we have the Atlantic Groundfish Council yesterday saying, no, that's not the case. It's actually not exclusive. They have priority, but we have access to offshore fleets. So whether or not you think draggers going back out there with just 18,000 tons on the table is good for the regurgitation or the whatever you want to call it, resuscitation of the cod fishery, that's another question. Sports, of course. No Euro soccer matches today. Copa America tomorrow night, Canada versus Chile. That's going to be huge. I think a draw there gets Canada to the next stage. And how about them Jays? Sports is a funny thing, boy, I tell you. You get the big Bronx Bombers come to town and the Jays blow them out, as bad as they've been playing lately. Even Springer came around. And just one more quick thing. Harbor Voices. 1,400 singers. You remember the Festival 500. This is on the tails of that, and going to be here till July the 4th. 1,400 singers coming to town for 25 concerts over the next 5 or 6 days until July 4th of next week. Get out and enjoy it if you can. And Dave, what are we doing? Are we just going to? I'm flying by the seat of my pants here, thrown in. Let's go to, yes, why not? Speaking of the War Memorial and and other things, let's go to Transportation Infrastructure Minister John Abbott on line one. Minister Abbott, good morning.
Well, good morning, Brian, and how are you doing?
Well, when you're thrown into things, you do the best. I'm always wary of, of upsetting the norm here, but Paddy, of course, we know is the hard act to follow, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, thank you. And first, appreciate your introduction with respect to the preparations for the National War Memorial and the repatriation and recommittal of the remains of the unknown soldier. Everything is definitely falling into place. We done a lot of work, my department, certainly with the Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts and Recreation, with Canadian Legion, the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, and everybody in between, and it's shaping up to be a historical, monumental event here in our city, in our province, and in the country. So looking forward to the event, but certainly with trepidation and a sense of mourning as well. Certainly
an interesting dynamic, Minister Abbott. With people, the War Memorial is right there. It's in all of our faces. Anyone in the city, you're passing by it, and always question what's this going to be like, what's it going to look like, is it going to be done on time? Were there ever any doubts in your mind, given the initial problems, of course, with the contract for the tomb, and then obviously that set things back a little bit. So, but we're all on. I assume everything is good to go. Let's get that out of the way first.
Everything is ready. Obviously, we're doing the final touches here today and tomorrow and Sunday. literally, and then the event obviously starts then at 9:30 on July 1st. So everything is in place. A lot of work, a lot of commitment by a lot of staff and our contractors and subcontractors, the local community. As I said, the Canadian Legion. Everybody has come together. It's truly a significant community event. So we'll be welcoming the Governor General, the Prime Minister, and other dignitaries from across the country and internationally. So it's, as I said, shaping up to be one of these historical moments, yet in the storied history of this great province.
Certainly unfortunate that Princess Anne could not make it, and of course her accident, we wish her nothing but the best. I half expected, and I don't know if this ever came up in conversations, but that the Royals might send someone in her stead. Was that ever considered? Do you know if there was any correspondence that way?
I can't comment on that, Brian. I have not been party to any of that discussion at all.
Now, we know there's going to be, masses of people coming down there. A lot of work has been done, not just on the memorial, but next to it. Can you talk a little about that, about what people will see differently down there if they haven't, had occasion to go down and wanted to stay away until, because it is a little bit difficult to get through there with all the construction that's been going on?
Oh, absolutely. So what folks will see differently from July 1st to November 11th memorial services in the past is the site is definitely opened up. It's definitely going to be more accessible for individuals on a daily basis. But for July 1st, we put in a significant viewing stand on the old property next to the SO Steel building, and that's going to allow a lot of people to actually look on and see the events up close, and we're going to have speakers and viewing places downtown and at the rooms, so people can, if they can't get close to the site, they will be able to see that live, but at the same time being in the physical space. So that's certainly different, and the fact that this is going to be broadcast provincially and nationally on the mainstream media will definitely allow people right across the province and the country to view what's going to happen here on July 1st.
Yeah, and certainly for those who may not be able to, physically or otherwise, or may want to avoid, the biggest crowds, there are places that people can view it locally. I think there's one set up at the Rooms. Are there others?
At the Sheraton and at the Royal Canadian Legion, and there will be speakers in the War Memorial area, so people may not be up close, but they will be able to hear what's going on as well. Brian, the other thing I would like to just talk about briefly, if I may, and that is with the situation about our provincial ferry service, and particularly the impact it's having on the services for Bell Island and for Fogo Change Islands this summer. We've run into some significant challenges because the motor vessel ferry, the Veteran, is still on dry dock. And people are questioning, what is happening, and rightfully so. And I just want to draw people's attention to the fact that when the two vessels, the Legionnaire and the Veteran, were constructed, the construction itself was mismanaged. The Auditor General, in her report there 2 or 3 years ago, commented specifically on that, and says quite candidly, she said she concluded that the department did not effectively manage the construction, operationalization, and initial operations of the MV Veteran and the MV Legionnaire. And as a result, this has contributed to the significant operational delays, service disruptions, and unplanned costs. And unfortunately, that continues to this day. We have spent millions of dollars since those boats were put in place, over $21 million up to March 31st, and right now we'll be spending millions more just to keep them going. And we, despite the fact that they're only 7 to 8 years old, we have to replace the engines in those vessels over the next year. So the problems with those vessels continue. My department is doing everything it can to find backup vessels, backup crews. There's lots of challenges there, and unfortunately, and I have talked to and we've communicated everything we know to the Users Committee on both Bell Island and Fogo and Change Islands. They're not happy, and I understand that, but we are doing everything in our power to make sure that those services continue while we get those repairs done. Right now, we have 3 vessels on dry dock. and we've had a replacement vessel brought in, and we're looking to see if we can find more, but they are really scarce as hen's teeth, and crews for those vessels are even more scarce. So we're really challenged, but we are keeping those services running, and we are doing everything we can, both Fogo, Change Islands, and Bell Island, to meet their service needs.
What is the status of the Flanders?
The Flanders, we have been doing still the investigation on the engines. There was a fire there just roughly a month ago. We were able to, it took us several weeks to even just get the capacity to bring the ferry from Portugal Cove into the St. John's dry dock. They're doing the diagnostics on the engines. We still inconclusive as to exactly what we're going to need to do there. Are they going to be repaired or replaced? That will be a big cost and the time consuming, as well as the generators. We will there are two, one of which we will overhaul, the other which we will have to replace. So there's a significant investment of money and time to get those get the Flanders back in service.
And I know you mentioned their month. It's almost going on 2 months actually. May the 8th was when the fire occurred. Coming up on 2 months, and we still don't have a cause?
No, we don't, and we're investigating, and that's an active investigation for that. So meanwhile, the veteran, while we continue to work on that, what we're finding, and we're keeping the public posted on roughly a daily basis as to what is happening, as we repair and replace one system, we're triggering issues with the next system, and then the next system. So it's because the vessel has been out of service for some time. That's not unexpected, but it's delaying it. We are, keeping our fingers crossed that we will be able to go to sea trials either later today or tomorrow, and that we'll get that vessel back in service. But we're as I said, that's not confirmed yet, but once we have that confirmed, we'll be letting both communities know right away. So once we get the veteran back in the Fogo service, we'll release the Beaumont Hamilton back to Bell Island, so they'll have a two-vessel service as well.
Minister John Abbott, I appreciate your time. Thank you for the call.
Well, thank you, Brian, and all the best to your listeners.
Thank you very much. That is the Minister of Infrastructure and Transportation, John Abbott. Off to break time. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the program. A few things just before we get to our next caller. First of all, anywhere here in Metro, boys, it's coming down out there right now, so please be careful. Turn on the lights, your driving lights, maybe automatic, but turn on the actual lights on your vehicle, please, so people can see the back of you, not just the front of you. And just got a note from Brian Medora. I believe there's an accident on Ken Mount near Terranova Motors. Most of that area of Ken Mount, I'm told, is blocked right now, so you might want to most certainly avoid that area. And shout out to the first responders who are trying to deal with that in this weather. It is coming down if you're not in metro area. And on that note, I just wanted to quickly note that the province, of course, announced this morning, just a short time ago, that they have lifted the fire ban that had been in place. And is it any wonder the way the rain's coming down out there now, at least in this part, a neck of the woods. And so it makes me wonder as well, the city of St. John's had cancelled fireworks for July 1st. Wonder whether or not that might be changed as well. Anyway, moving on. Let's go to Terry, first of all, on line 5. Terry, you found a set of keys.
Yes, some Good Samaritan brought in a set of keys yesterday. They found them on the sidewalk by the firewood factory. That's 810 Torbay Road. And I just took them to the post office there in Torbay and gave them to them. Because they had a couple keys for post office box and key fob, house keys on it. So I figured somebody probably want them. Can
you just give me an idea? Say again where exactly you found them and what time?
810 Torbay Road yesterday afternoon, probably around 2, somewhere in that.
810 is the number. Sorry, I thought you meant 810 in the morning.
Torbay Road.
Got ya. 810 Torbay Road around yesterday afternoon.
Yep.
Okay, and how can they get a hold of them? We have your number. Got a number here for you.
No, they're. I left them with the Torbay post office.
Oh, right.
They have them on the counter.
Okay, so anyone who is missing that set of keys, Torbay post office, good call. Terry, thanks very much for doing your part.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you. Now, shall we, Dave, go right to another Terry? Back-to-back Terrys. Terry Ryan, you are on the air.
Good morning, Brian.
Morning, Terry. How are you?
I'm...
That's a loaded question, isn't it?
Brian, I can have a few minutes of your time and the listeners' time. I got a lot to say, but I know I can't be on air forever. You got a lot of other callers, no doubt. But I'm going to talk about a fishery issue, more specifically the cod fishery right now. And the management plan that DFO recently released a couple of days ago. I don't know how familiar you are with it. But anyway, one of the things within that management plan is a change in our history, our long history of fishing codfish on what we always say, quote unquote, on the Labrador. No, we didn't fish on the Labrador because that would be on land. And codfish don't do too well on land. We fished off the Labrador, but anyway. And DFO right now is saying, their official release is saying 3K and 3L codfish harvesters are not going to be permitted to fish off the Labrador coast in NAFO Division 2J this year. Unofficially, but they won't make it public, they've sent emails to certain people in the FFAW and perhaps otherwise, but they won't make it public. They're saying now they've backed off a little small bit, but it's irrelevant. It's all political. They're saying, okay, we will allow you guys to continue your 200, 300, 400-year history of coming down to 2J off the Labrador to fish codfish, but what you catch is going to come off your 3K or 3L quota, not off the 2J quota, which is just a bunch of bull, something political. They're trying to save face, DFO, because they realize they've made a blunder there. That's not going to be tolerated. Now, myself and my brother have both stated to DFO, and I also stated on Fishery Broadcast Even for Laughs, that we're going to be in 2J fishing anyway. And we're not leaving it if they stick to this bull political statement that they unofficially said.
Terry, if you could, you know enough. This is not the first time you've been on Open Line. So if you could keep the profanity and the swearing to not a minimum, to a zero, that'd be great.
Where did I swear?
The bull SHIT is pretty straightforward. So if you could keep that down and just knock it off, that'd be great. And go for it.
That's what you're defining as swearing.
Yes, I am. The SHIT word on the air, absolutely. Not news. We would just like to kindly ask you if you could avoid doing that. Try to get your point across without that, if that's okay.
Can I say bull poop?
Sure, bud.
Okay, bull poop. Okay.
There you go.
That's a nice word. So it's political. So we're going to be down there fishing, and we're not giving up the fishing until the 2J quota is caught, because that is a 2J fishery, and it should come off the 2J quota. So if they want to come out, what I mean by they is the enforcement branch of DFO with their $100 million icebreakers the taxpayers are paying for, with a load of gun-toting federal fisheries officers with guns on their waists, and arrest us, seize our vessels, seize our catch, with the media board filming all of this, and so on, then come on. But they better chain the boat onto the wharf with heavy chain, because the grinders will have the chain cut pretty fast and we'll be out there again, unless they're going to lock us up in jail and feed us at taxpayers' expense. So I want to make that clear. And the other thing is this attempt to change history. I mean, this is historical. I mean, we islanders, as we're sometimes referred to, people who live on Newfoundland, the Newfoundland Island part of our province of Newfoundland and Labrador, as it's officially called, this is trying to change history, a long history too, not a brief history, and it's not going to work. Okay, so we are going fishing on the Labrador, as we've always done. We've done for hundreds of years. I mean, and more specifically, this fishery that's affecting me, my vessel and my brother's vessel and other vessels, is a hook and line fishery. A hook and line fishery for codfish that we pioneered off the Labrador coast, like 70 or 80 miles off the Labrador coast. We're the pioneers that started this and developed it and have shown that it's viable. It's a viable fishery and a new fishery that causes no environmental damage to the bottom. It's hook and line. It's not a dragger fishery. It's not a gillnet fishery. It's a clean, environmentally friendly hook and line fishery. But because we're making a success out of it now, somebody has decided, we don't want you guys down here at this anymore. You're from the Highland of Newfoundland. You're not really, in terms of this issue, a part of this province of Newfoundland and Labrador. We want to bar you from it and keep this codfish entirely for residents of the Labrador coast. Now, I don't have any problem with the residents of the Labrador coast catching codfish and growing themselves into the fishery with their own vessels. More power to them, but don't do it at somebody else's detriment and try to change hundreds of years of history. It's not going to work, and the federal minister in Ottawa, who has ultimate authority to make these foolish, ill-founded political decisions, is out to lunch. So, and our bureaucrats are out to lunch. They're naive, and the local regional fisheries people here in Newfoundland are out to lunch and naive and ill-informed if they think we're going to stay out of it. So I want to make that public right now, and I hope that, I doubt the federal minister is listening to a Openline show from Newfoundland and Labrador today, but some of our bureaucrats might be. And I want to make it clear that Terry Ryan and his son are going to be in 2J this fall fishing codfish, and my brother as well, and probably the other 4 or 5 hook and line boats that have been down there at it, but I can't speak for them. And if you want to come out and arrest us, as I hope you do, because that will create the media show then, to show how stupid you are. I hope that's not swearing, the word stupid. It might be defamatory, but I'm at the point now I don't care about defaming anybody anymore. I don't care about anything. So you do it. Come get us.
Terry, appreciate it. Appreciate all the sentiment. I understand the frustration. I have issues exactly with the what DFO did this week with the TAC. Now, I'm not alone. Some renowned and respected scientists the same. Thanks for the call. Got to get off the break.
Can I? More thing?
Got to get off. I got 30 seconds. Go for it.
There's other things in that management plan that are not anything to celebrate over either. But the one I just talked about is the one that's going to have the most impact. It won't have any impact on me because I'm going to be down there anyway. But the fact that they've changed this fishery from a stewardship fishery to a commercial fishery. Now, to the general public, here's what that means. By changing it to a commercial
30 seconds,
fishery,
Terry. I asked you for 30. If you could just try to cut it down. I got to get to break, buddy.
Okay, I'm going to call back another week.
Yes, call back another time. I hate giving you short shrift. Look, you have important things to say. You're right on the front line with this. I understand what you're saying. The frustration is palpable. Give us a call again next week when Patty's back.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks very much. Off the break, Dave. Thank you very much. And welcome back to the program. Let's go right to line 2. And Lynn Paddock, the newly minted MHA for Bay Verde Green Bay. You're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. Thanks for having me.
No worries. A long time no talk.
Yeah.
When I buttonholed you on the way out of the House of Assembly the other day, right after your swearing in. Thanks for giving me the time of day there.
Thank you for interviewing me. Before I want to talk about the unknown soldier, of course, in World War I, but I would just like to make a comment on what Terry Ryan said, and that is with regards to the historical attachment, particularly Notre Dame Bay fishermen with the fishery off Labrador. That's been there. I mean, my own grandfather, great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather took fishing schooner cruise north to fish off that area. And if DFO wants a record, well, then the Twillingate Sun reported the catches from, 1860 to about 1960. So there's a 100-year span there where that is fully documented. Anyway, so that's...
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so what I wanted to call in this morning is the unknown soldier and our contribution to World War I.
Yes, sir.
So first of all, this is, as you highlighted in your preamble, and thank you for doing that, this is a significant milestone for our province. And I'd like to thank, everybody involved in doing that. This was a dream of Padre Nago when he started organizing our war graves from World War I. And it has taken 100 years for that to come to fruition. So the next 3 days, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just about, when we start talking about this, my mind goes everywhere. I just can't, we're so close to the day now, and I just can't, it's striking to me. I'm trying to get my head around the true thoughts that I'm going to have and trying to cover it, but also be in the moment at the same time. And my grandfather, of course, was in the First World War, a member of the regiment, lost an arm, survived. But, we have a deep family attachment as well. I just think it's going to be something that, I heard some people talk about the cost of this and, what we're putting into it. People have to get their minds around, if you don't have this for your land and for your people and for your, this kind of deep attachment, this is what we're all about, and it represents every single one of us. As I said off the top, it could be you or me or any of our sons. And so, I whenever we start talking about it, I go, surely, I'm guilty of going off on a tangent, but you go ahead. Yeah. So I just wanted to pipe in with that.
Brian, so well said. So this event, so the next 3 days, the lying in stake. And I view it almost like a wake, a period of sorrow. And this is an opportunity. I've started doing it on my Facebook page, is telling some of the stories like you just did with your grandfather. And I encourage every Newfoundlander and Labradorian to tell the stories from their family history, from their community over the next three days. We remember by telling their stories, we remember them by saying their name. And it is very important that we do that. And so I'd like to highlight, I guess, a couple things on that soldiering from World War I.
Sure.
We know about the first 500 that left on the Floresville, and then basically almost the destruction of the regiment on July the 1st, 1916. But it was then, Brian, the call went out through the various newspapers. In my area in central Newfoundland, it was through the Twillingate Sun, a call to help reconstitute the regiment. So there were so many volunteers then, young fishermen, that joined. Some even lying about their age, like Tommy Ricketts, to join. And they joined knowing that their countrymen, that their Newfoundland countrymen, had been basically wiped out. And that sends shivers down my spine when I think of that, of their commitment to duty, to answer the call to help reconstitute our regiment at that time.
Absolutely. People talk about, a lot of these guys were so young, had no idea what they were going. This was adventure. Oh, we're going to go. Who knows what was all in their minds. But at the time, since it hadn't happened yet, who knew what they were facing? But to know what they did face and how they were wiped out, and yet the throngs that came to replenish the troops is just mind-boggling.
Yeah, so a couple, and when you think of them, so they were, a lot of them were young, able-bodied fishermen. They were brothers in arms. They looked out to each other. It was about them as a group. And I think they would be, if they could see now what is being done, they would be quite modest about it. For them, it was not about, all that ceremonial stuff. It was about getting the job done. It was about turning for the colony. But they took, Brian, and that's what makes it so special, they took great pride in having Newfoundland on their shoulder flash. They were very proud of being able to represent a young colony at that time. And then on the home front, what is there to say? So, there was significant pressures put on some families because able-bodied men had left, so that had significant impact on fishing crews. The mothers were worried sick. Mothers and sisters turned to help form the Women's Patriotic Association. And it had a huge impact. And some communities, Brian, never recovered. I look at like Tree Arms in Green Bay. Tree Arms in World War I in 1916 was a fledgling community of 140. After Lieutenant Norris was killed, and he was basically the heir of the fishing enterprises, his father lost interest and left, and the community dwindled. Our losses from World War I rippled through our entire province.
They talk, there's a lot of talk about how we lost our brightest and youngest and best and brightest, and what might have, what they may have been able to accomplish for our province, and yet mowed down by German machine guns. It's absolutely shocking, stunning. It is our generational moment. Monday will be something like none of us have ever experienced before and should all be a part of. Lynn Paddock, thanks for the call so much today. And I also neglected, I'd be remiss if I didn't also congratulate you on your new shadow cabinet position as the Minister of Finance, Treasury Board, Public Service Commission critic for the PC Party. Thanks again for the call, and I'm sure we'll all, be preparing for Monday.
Yeah, thanks, Brian, and I hopefully will have the opportunity to chat with you on Monday.
Thank you. Lynn Paddock, thanks very much again. That is the PCMHA for Baybrook Green Bay. Lynn Paddock with some very poignant comments there regarding what will happen, transpire over the next few days, especially beginning today with this afternoon actually will be the first public viewing of the unknown soldier as he lies in state at Confederation Building here in St. John's. And yeah, it's going to be quite the next few days, to say the least. Coming up after the break, Dave Callahan, FFAW presidential candidate, right after the break. Welcome back to the program. Off to line 3, and Dave Callahan, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. How are you?
Good, sir. Just full transparency here that I don't believe we may be related somewhere down through the West Coast annals. I know my dad's from Corner Brook, Petries curling area. Grew up there, and so I'm sure we have a relation somewhere along the way, but just for the public domain, not that I know of we're related, but go ahead.
There you go. I'm not 100% sure either. I didn't have a lot of connection to my Irish roots and where they came from. But in the meantime, hardly the reason for my call this morning, because I tell you got a hot topic brewing that I think I'm kind of one of the reasons that the topic started in the first place. And I guess some of the things that I was saying a few weeks back are starting to get mirrored, and they're starting to get adopted by a few people in court. And I'm also seeing this morning, as a result, I think it was something on VOCM on the news, on the radio or something, our premier has just recently stood up to be counted for in this provincial fisheries debacle that's been, I guess, in existence for a lot of years. I got to applaud Terry Ryan. you noted that it was a small word that he used. That's not really considered much of a swear word in our world.
Well, when you use it
and
three
I'm
times,
surprised that he never actually took the full-on blackguards.
Yeah.
As it's very difficult to control yourself when you, as a harvester that's been subjected to not only the politics that gets thrown into their industry, but also the foolishness, this fish science myth that's out there.
I appreciate that, but the hyperbole and everything doesn't add a lot to the conversation. And I get it. 3 times in a row, and we got to try to keep it somewhat clean here. But point taken.
Oh, yeah, and believe me, I'm going to have difficulty with it myself. I mean, you're actually talking about an emotional topic that sometimes you don't root for the most appropriate word. You use the one that comes to your face. And believe me, they got no reason to be politically correct, because they've been living in amongst political incorrectness and the myth that's been tried to be passed off to control our lives in Newfoundland, including the use of the words end of the cod moratorium. And now anybody using that word or that phrase is 100% seeking votes, and I've said it already, and I predict that there's an election coming, because quite often the government tosses common sense, science, and everything else out the window just before an election. And that's exactly what's coming. They got to find some way to scrabble their way back up, because they're in the toilet now. The reason they're in the toilet now is because they got such foolish things going on, such as, okay, they expect us to respect fishery cutoffs, moratoriums based on science, when science has never entered into the picture for a politician ever. From the start of the moratorium till this very friggin' day. Pardon me, I guess that's a misappropriation there too. Okay, we'll move on. To this day, what we're seeing is not only mismanagement of our resource that's happened since '92 when the moratorium first started, it just happened again. The cod quotas that we're talking about being increased now from last year, 13,000 to roughly 18,000. First of all, there shouldn't be a foreign dragger in our waters if that happens on 18,000 tons. We have plenty of capacity in our offshore fleet and our inshore fishery to take care of that small quota. The end of a moratorium is when we return to the stocks being at a point where commercial fishery can go back to where it was, when that was in the hundreds of thousands of tons in the total allowable catch, and it surrounds in circumference all of Newfoundland and Labrador. If the federal government goes out now, I know that our fisheries minister is looking for a reason to beat her drum and to go out and pound on her chest and say, hey, victory, victory, victory. She calls a close on the moratorium. That allows offshore draggers, not only from this country but countries otherwise, to come in and start availing of the fact that this moratorium is no longer on. Sends a terrible message. As a matter of fact, only a political one, because if you bring science into it, our social worker, Minister of Fisheries, just completely trotted over science, ignored her chief scientist, who says that these stocks are still at the reference point that they're at right now. They're not sure if they're in between critical or cautious stage. But that's what the LRP was set for, and that's the reason that it exists. But it's only a fictitious way that they can use science as a weapon against this fishery. Because basically, when you have a minister that's not qualified to sit in the seat, one thing that they could say, well, this minister in Ottawa can rely upon her scientists. She doesn't have to be a scientist, a marine scientist, to be the Minister of Fisheries. Well, she just proved that she never relied upon her scientists. She's completely ignoring them. And right now, they're playing politics with our fishery again. Somebody seeming like they're going to fight for the Newfoundland fishery. Well, guess what? The ones that are going to fight for the Newfoundland fishery are the ones in the Newfoundland fishery, and the ones that should be fighting for it.
We've been told, Dave, over and over, that right now the stock will not, is just in no position to recover without fishing. And yet they've allocated 18,000. You're going to see locally operated offshore draggers in 2J3KL on the northeast coast, dragging the ground again. And yet we are nowhere close to recovering. And this isn't just me saying it. I listened to George Rose yesterday.
Actually, Brian, I'll correct you on that because we're nowhere close to actually facing the problem.
Yeah.
Before they opened up the increased total allowable catch on a species that's at risk, cod numbers are down, seal numbers are way up. Their own science by DFO says that the major cause, the breeding stock in juveniles in cod are not making it to the point where they can reproduce. They're getting picked off by seals. Now, the popular thing and the most sensible thing, but forget science, common sense would say, let's go after the root cause of this problem. Open up a major cod, a major seal cull fishery, hunt. I'm not even sure what's the popular word to say on that one anymore because that's been tossed around that much not fit. Our social worker, Minister of Fisheries, said the only way that she would consider an opening of a seal hunt fishery cull, decrease in numbers, whatever you want to call it, is if there could be a business case made for it. So our federal minister just said, frig science. Never mind, we know what the major predation on other species is, and it's being caused by an overpopulation of seals. Because that's unpopular with the European Union or whoever else is going to get a little bit of a miffy and probably send down some high-profile ranking rock star or something to go down and hug a seal that's dead and stuffed and make it seem like we're killing white coats again. It's a political ploy, and it always has been. Why in the name of God, before you go out and you say, okay, we'll increase the fishery on a species at risk, instead of going at the root cause of why it's at risk, that being the seals. It's the major cause. It's the major reason that since 1992 that this fishery has not been given a fair and adequate chance to recover. Not very long ago, I just went to the media and I said, I know the minimum number that the federal government owes this province now for the mismanagement of this resource, for bypassing its fiduciary responsibility. Once these species get into the lower range of the LRP, the limit reference point, they're supposed to develop a plan that sees the species be able to return under whatever plan that they put in, which has never been anything, to a safe level where it can be got to be used again as not only what it is, a vital food supply, but as a major industry that should be supplying major opportunity to this province. The fact of the matter is, the only time that you hear fisheries in this province and the protection of anything having to do with fisheries in this province is right before an election. And I can guarantee you that there's one of them coming soon because they can't afford to slip no farther in the polls because of the idiot decisions being made by ministers in the wrong seats with no real credentials to be where they're to, defying their own science, defying the warnings that come out, because some science, it might actually be done right. And unfortunately, it'll fall into the mix of all else that's done wrong. If you want to get some basic respect back for the science, start using the science that you're actually producing, that you're spending millions of dollars to be able to have, but you should not see contravened and sidetracked because it's time for an election.
Dave, we heard earlier this week from Greg Priddy, the current FFAW president, and of course mentioning, I just want to get your thoughts quickly before we get to the break and the news at the top of the hour with Mr. Medor. Mr. Priddy made the point, of course, and he's insistent that the policy framework says that, it's exclusive to the inshore, this below, anything up to 115,000 tons. And yet yesterday, the Atlantic Groundfish Council came out and said, no, wait, that's not the case. It's not, never was supposed to be exclusive. It's on a priority basis, but we can go ahead and distribute some of it to the offshore fleet, as well as that 5% that goes to NAFO automatically with any reopening of the northern cod fishery. Do you take the same stance on that?
Well, it's about time that he spoke out on something, I suppose, but my stance on that is very simple. There should be nothing, no fishery, no boats anywhere from any other nation fishing on an 18,000-ton total allowable catch right now. That should be 100% guaranteed to our fishers. inshore and offshore fishers from this province. Harvesters that have come from this union. Fact of the matter is, it's only a pittance of an increase in the total allowable catch. It's not a great big deal. We have it well within our capacity to do it, but then there should be some serious science tagged to that.
Yeah,
but only after we see a major seal cull and we start dealing with it. These problems have been recognized all along the eastern seaboard U.S. as far as the tip of it, right down to Miami, from what I know. The increase in these is actually meaning, the predators are showing up in areas, sharks are showing up in different areas where these seals are predating, and whatever the case may be. It's natural. It's the way things go. But what's not natural is the way that this government and the way that the FFAW, I'm not going to let them off the hook either. A lot's got to change there.
Yep, no, absolutely.
The change hasn't been allowed because guess what? The control means that the change can never happen. That's what we need to change with the FFAW, to give it back the respect of its membership, get rid of the control, and also get rid of agreeing with government when they make idiot decisions like this.
And you'll certainly get your opportunity. You've thrown your hat in the ring for the FFAW presidency, so you're certainly putting the money where the mouth is. Along, of course, we should say, with Abe Solberg and Dwan Street. The three of you are vying for the FFAW presidency. Dave, on the surface, and I'll just say it seems like, I'm no scientist, but it seems like too fast, too soon, but that's just me. Thanks for the call, Dave. I'm sure we'll be talking again.
Thank you, Brian. And as far as the science is concerned, anytime anybody starts beating their chest about the quality of science and what it means to anybody's to their, not only their enterprise, but to your family and to our way of life. Science has never, ever supported a proper front, not only for our benefit, it's almost always been used to our detriment. And it's time that ended. And that'll only end when fishers get out to the point where they start opposing things and they want to stand up and fight. I won't be in the office, as they've said I should be, sitting at the boardroom at the FAW. I'll be on the ballot vote.
Dave Callahan, thanks again for the call.
Thank you very much.
Off to the break with Brian Madore. And welcome back to the program. Let's go right to line number 7. And Michael Lechardy of the Canadian Army Veterans Motorcycle Unit's National President. Michael, you're on the air.
Good day, sir. How are you?
I'm not too bad, but I understand you might have had a few hiccups this week, and some plans may have been gone to the wayside. You're having some issues getting here, I hear.
Not really. I mean, I left Kelowna, BC 10 days ago, and I think every day we had a little bit of moisture. I'll call it that. There's been a little hiccups on the way, and then when I was about halfway through Ontario, I got a lovely little email from Marine Atlantic, and so we've had to make a few changes. We understand that. It's not a problem. That's why we came a couple of days early, and we're just kind of changing our logistics a bit, and we're old soldiers. We're used to adapting to a new plan, and we're good to go.
So you're on your way, obviously, here for Monday's what can only be described as something else, moving the 100th anniversary of the memorial and the unknown soldier on Monday. Where are you currently?
I am talking to you from New Glasgow, Nova Scotia, and we're about ready to hit the road for North Sydney to catch the 1730 ferry to Portabass.
Now, that's great. So, you have that reservation, and originally I think you were on the Argentia one, were you not?
That is correct, sir.
And so did it upset the plans? We know this was due to issues with the new ferry, the Alisuinu, that Marine Atlantic has brought over from just recently, arrived back, but has been having issues since then. And the crossings for Argentia have been delayed as a result of that. And just so for your edification, Michael, we've just learned from Marine Atlantic just a very short time ago that the delays with the Alisuinu are going to won't impact you because you're rebooked on Portabass. But the delays with the Alisuinu are going to be extended because they're still having problems with that ferry. This is for the public's edification. And now crossings, we believe, are cancelled and rerouted at least until July the 10th, cancellations to Portabass. So you're not alone here. And that's, I believe we're going to talk to Marine Atlantic in a short period of time. But tell me more about what you're expecting as you prepare to cross over to Newfoundland and be here on Monday.
Right. Well, our original plan was indeed to go to Ascension. My plan with my group was actually to return. Our return trip was going to be through Port aux Basques because we definitely wanted to cross the province and see it. Now I get to cross the beautiful province of Newfoundland twice.
There you go. So
I mean, that's good. It's all good. We love riding motorcycles, so this just adds another 900 kilometers on. That's fine. We've made a few changes to the hotels, but whatever setbacks we've had or changes we've made, I mean, we're used to it. We're old soldiers, as I mentioned, but you got to put it in perspective. It's all about respect. We are going to St. John's to pay our respects to a fallen soldier, the unknown soldier, to honor the Royal Newfoundland Regiment and their sacrifices. And this unknown soldier represents veterans all across the country. So a little bit of rain and a little bit of changing of the route and a broken down ferry will not deter us. We will soldier on, and we will go to St. John's. We love it there. I've been there a few times before, and but really, it's all about our veterans. It's all about those veterans who paid the ultimate sacrifice. And this unknown soldier, I mean, there are a lot of veterans across our country that are watching this. And it's not just the cab that's coming to St. John's. It's veterans from all over Canada, whether they're driving, flying, or raving a motorcycle, 2 wheels or 3 wheels. So we're just happy to be part of this. We've made some changes, not a problem. We've taken my cab people, about 60, 80 of them, are crossing right now as we speak on a couple of sailings, or maybe 3 different sailings. So I think we're the last one tonight.
Michael, when you say we, how many of you are how many of you are there?
Oh, I expect about 80 cab members. 80 to 90 cab members in St. John's. We do have a cab unit right in St. John's.
And you keep saying cab. I just wanted, for people listening, the cab, you're talking about Canadian Army veterans.
The Canadian Army Veterans Motorcycle Unit is who we represent, and we call it the CAV for short. So I have about 80 members that are going to be in St. John's for Monday. We will be on parade with the other veterans who are predominantly Legion members or Legionnaires. And these 80 people have come as far as BC. Myself and my vice president are the farthest west. I've had a member fly in from Victoria, BC, and he's actually sitting right beside me. And he'll drive back to Halifax this afternoon and fly home. Because of time constraints, he couldn't ride his bike. So, but I would imagine about 60 motorcycles over the course of about 3 or 4 sailings to get to St. John's.
Are you prepared for what this is going to feel like on Monday?
Well, this is not my first repatriation. The CAV has always been involved with the repatriations of Canadian soldiers. This all started in the early days of the Afghanistan War, of which I did 2 tours of. So when our fallen Canadian soldiers, sailors, or aircrew arrived in Trenton from Kandahar, and were repatriated through Trenton, my people were on hand with their motorcycles to line the streets to pay their respects. So this is carried on through the Afghanistan campaign, and other soldiers that have been repatriated back. The loss of the helicopter crew from Halifax. We have a unit down there, and we were on hand when they were repatriated back. So this is what we've always done. And with the unknown soldier, this is quite unique. Now, this is a soldier from World War I. We just felt we had to be here. We just had to go and pay our respects to the folks of Newfoundland and to the Royal Newfoundland Regiment.
Well, Michael, I wish you nothing but the safest travels across the Gulf and into Newfoundland and Labrador, the run across the island, Monday's events, and of course all the other events. When do you leave? When do you head back?
Well, after the 1st of July, we have planned tour rides around St. John's and the surrounding area. So that'll be, we also have a function to go to at the Legion the evening of the 1st. Canada Connect is hosting us as well. We've got to screech in a whole whack of mainlanders That's got to be done. I mean, that's a given. We have a big motorcycle motorcade into Bowring Park to conduct our own service, our own gathering, if you will, and pay our respects at the Beaumont Hamel Monument right there in Bowring Park. And the city has been very good to us. They have opened up the gates and allowed us to ride our motorcade in with police escort, and we will be doing that on the 2nd in the morning. The public is welcome. We're going to show up. We're going to form up. We're going to bow our heads. We're going to pay our respects, and then carry on with the rest of the day's activities. We got to ride up the Signal Hill, and there's quite a few mainlanders in my group that have not left the mainland. So this will be all new for them, and we're just tickled to meet the citizens of St. John's and share with their commemoration.
Michael Lashardy with the Canadian Army Veterans Motorcycle Unit's National President. Thanks so much for checking in with us. Safe riding.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Appreciate it. Bye.
All right, that's Michael Lashardy, and of course, the people who are descending on the province and the city for Monday's events. It'll just be like something I keep repeating the same words over and over and over because I'm at a loss for words, as I probably will be on Monday as well. Let's take a quick break there, Dave. And when we come back, we're going to go right to Marine Atlantic. Daryl Mercer, spokesperson for Marine Atlantic for many, many, many years now, knows the stuff inside out. We'll have a chat with Daryl on the latest issues with the new ferry Alaswino right after the break. Welcome back to the program. Brian Callahan in today for Paddy Daly on to line 3, and Daryl Mercer with Marine Atlantic. You're on the air.
Morning, Brian.
How are you? Loaded question, maybe?
Had better days. But I mean, first, I just listened to Michael's conversation, and on behalf of Marine Atlantic, I want to extend our sincere apologies for the impact that we're having to him and his group, but the several thousand other customers who've been impacted, and I know there's many business owners who are out there that are having an impact with customers that have had to change their plans. So it's not an easy situation for anybody, and unfortunately, I wish I had better news to give today, but working with our technicians, the vessel's still not ready to go back into service yet, and that means we're going to be canceling additional Argentia crossings up until July 10th.
So, Daryl, I do, obviously people should know right off top, this isn't your fault. This isn't, this is mechanical, and this is a large vessel, and it sailed, what was the port? From China, right?
It was built in China. The vessel is owned by Stena. We've entered into a 5-year lease with Stena for that vessel. So it arrived in Canada back in April, and we've been trying to integrate it into our service ever since.
Obviously, things come up, the first thing that come to people's mind, and how do we get compensated for this? But let's just give me the Coles notes here. Like, I just had a very brief look at your news release. So there's still debris in the fuel line. That seems to be the recurring problem. Do we know what kind of a debris? Like, what exactly is in the fuel lines?
Yeah, and most of it seems to be metal filings, that type of thing, that if it got into the engine, it could cause significant damage. So it was back in early June when we first detected some of this debris into our lubrication system. Now, there was also some debris in the fuel lines, but that wasn't a major issue at the time. We recognized it was there. We had a plan in place to fix that. But when we found it in the lubrication system as well, that sort of doubled the problem. So we've got technicians from around the world who are on that vessel right now, from Stena, from the engine manufacturers, from some other companies that are the best in the world in their field, and they've been working on this problem for the last few weeks. And as they get through a problem, they think that it's rectified. We have a schedule for us to progress through the remaining repairs and then put the port trials in place, and then the vessel would go into service. But as they progress through each of the stages, they start to find more of this debris. So that brings them back a step, and that's what we're into right now. And we hate to use a date. We're trying to give some certainty to customers as to when the vessel will go in service, but it's these continuous setbacks that we go. we have a high level of confidence 1 week, and then a few days later we find this debris again, and it sets us back. So, right now we're canceling crossings up to the 10th. We're hopeful that we'll be able to rectify the problem by then, but again, we can't provide the same level of confidence or certainty, because if we encounter another one of these problems in the coming days, then we could be set back again. But right now we're hopeful that we're progressing in the right direction, and that we can soon get past this problem.
Yeah, this is no fun for you guys either. So especially the scheduling and trying to reroute people and give them that news, and it might not work for some people, and it could impact. Daryl, this is a brand new vessel, right? I just want to state some very obvious things. Sometimes people get mixed up. We've taken other vessels, repurposed vessels years ago for more the smaller runs within the province, interprovincial ferries. But this was a new vessel, and it did have some issues on the way over here. Were they the same issues that you're having now?
It would be similar type issues, but it wasn't as severe as what we anticipated. The fuel line issue, and that's what we experienced on the way over, is that there were some of these filings that we found in the fuel lines. We had a plan in place to clean those fuel lines, and that wouldn't have impacted our original entry date of June the 14th. The problem became when it also was discovered in the lubrication system, because that brings us right into the engines. If any of that debris got into the engines, then you have a much bigger problem, because it could destroy the engines, and then you have to rebuild those. So right now it's more of a cleaning exercise. There's no damage to the engines because the debris hasn't gone into those engines. So, but again, it's the debris and where it's, and we're not talking about a small amount of piping here. This is a very large network that has many lanes of piping, and to try to clean all that, it takes time. And then, of course, when you find debris, once you've cleaned the section and it comes back again, you're trying to investigate where that debris is. So that's why it's taking so long, and it's very frustrating for customers. I understand that. It's frustrating for business owners. It's frustrating for Marine Atlantic. We've got great cooperation with Stena and the other manufacturers in trying to fix this problem. So, hand in hand with these technicians, we're hopeful that we'll be able to get past it soon.
As you say, great cooperation from Stena, but yet, I know it doesn't have any real effect on people waiting in the queues or trying to get across on the ferry. But will you be able to find some level of compensation? Are they aware of this? I mean, is this on them?
Well, that's a discussion for another day. Right now, everybody is focused on trying to get that vessel into service. This is our peak period. We've got the most traffic of the year that's traveling right now in the summer season, tourism, commercial, so we've got to move that traffic. And what we've done temporarily is put in an accelerated schedule. So we're able to add additional crossings through Port of Ask to move that Argentia traffic, and also the increase that we're seeing in commercial traffic. So it's working for us right now. The unfortunate part with the accelerated schedule is it involves people and it involves infrastructure. And if you push everything too hard, then people get tired. The infrastructure doesn't have as much downtime to continue your preventative maintenance. So if we have to go at that pace, then we have to balance that as well for the period of time. But right now, with the Blue Betees, the Highlanders, and the Leif Erikson, we're moving the traffic and the capacity. We're able to match what the demand is. But again, it's not what people have booked. They booked the Argentia crossing, and we want to get that back into service as soon as we possibly can. And we're hopeful that we're making progress and that it won't extend too far into the future.
Any concern with strains on the other vessels that you have to sort of put a little bit more pressure on now? I mean, the unexpected and extended because of the problems with the Alaswino.
Yeah, and Brian, first, if we didn't have the staff committed to doing this right now, we wouldn't be able to function. We wouldn't have the capacity to move the traffic. So our staff has really stepped up. They are putting in overtime. They're working extra hours. They're working extra shifts. They're really making this happen. So it's kudos to them. It's a difficult situation. They recognize the impact that we're having on customers, and they want to do their part so that nobody is stranded on one side of the dock or the other. And so I want to send a kudos out to them because they have been really working hard during this period, and it's stressful. It's very stressful on people because, you don't have the downtime, and some aren't even getting home on their break to see their family. They have to work those extra shifts. So yes, it is very demanding, but again, we know the impact it is causing, and everybody's pulling together to try to make this work.
Hopefully sooner than later, a resolution to this latest issue with that ferry. Daryl Mercer, always appreciate the time, Daryl.
Great. Appreciate it, Brian.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Okay, that's Daryl Mercer, spokesperson with Marine Atlantic. That new ferry now delayed until at least July 10th, pending, the further investigation and repairs. Let's go quickly to Renee on line 1. Renee, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning. Sorry for the long. Great, thank you very much. Sorry for the wait in the queue, but go for it.
Oh, not at all. First of all, I just want to say thank you for your service to the gentleman that called in before about the memorial. I was going to say looking forward to, but I am eager to go down on Monday. And it keeps reminding me of my grandfather, who I lost and never got to meet, who died in World War II. So. Big weekend.
I share that sentiment wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Anyway, I was calling in to give an update. I was talking to Patty Monday before last about a bus stop that Metrobus has unilaterally decided to remove at the top of Longs Hill. I'm not sure if you're familiar with downtown.
Well, I live downtown.
Oh, okay. So, Longs Hill is a fairly steep hill, and there's a stop right up at the top near the light. It's a very long light. It's over 2 minutes. But, they decided to remove the sign without any consultation. They just put a paper notice on the pole around the 12th of June that it would be removed on the 24th. And I just want to update, it's been removed. They put no notices in the bulletins online about it. The Friday before it was removed, so 3 days before, they finally put a notice if you were searching for the next bus at that stop. It finally said it'll be gone on Monday. And on Monday, if you put that stop number in, you get an error message. So that's just communication. But the important thing, though, is the effect this is having on the community. And we had started a petition, and I had talked to over 100 people, 110 people so far, and we had 93 signatures as of last Friday, so I submitted it to me and a couple other authors, submitted it to the St. John's Transportation Commission to appeal them removing it before they considered other options, or to at least delineate what the issue is, because we've received nothing in writing. And I haven't had a response yet. But the stop is gone as of Monday, and they didn't even update the sign to say where the next nearest stop is.
So you're talking about actually on Longs Hill, not the upper side on Harvey Road?
No, I'm talking that's the Harvey Road side is if you want to go downtown.
Right.
The Longs Hill side is coming up the hill, and
so you're not talking the top of the hill.
Yes.
Right there at that light where you said, and I agree with you 100%,
exactly.
It is the longest, has to be the longest. And it's like that for a reason, because the fire station is there, of course, and the police station is there, and it's one of the most bizarre intersections we have in the city, aside from Rollins Cross. But I avoid going up that hill just because of that light, to be honest with you.
Oh, absolutely. But they're not changing the route. They're just taking out our stop. So now, if you call in, as late as yesterday morning, they're telling you to cross the street and take it from the freshwater shelter, but that's going the opposite direction. Again, that would take you downtown and all the way through downtown, so an extra 20 minutes. So it's like if you were in your car at Avalon and you said you wanted to go downtown, and somebody directed you to go up through Team Gushu to Kelsey Drive and then go downtown.
Yeah, taking the circuitous route. And no response? You haven't received any kind of explanation?
Nope. Nothing. We haven't even had an acknowledgement of the receipt of the petition and a letter kind of outlining the issues and how this affects the community immediately in the short term and long term in the winter time. We've had trouble with snow clearing there and things like that. But, we've had no written response, no written reason for why it's going away, and a wide range of contradictory and rather inexplicable reasons about safety, about why it's going. But if you talk to 3 people, you get 3 reasons.
Those, as you just meant, safety and other different reasons. Have you spoken to anyone in authority, or is this just kind of like anecdotal between people who are wondering what happened?
No, I've talked to Metrobus, to the planner. I talked to his supervisor, which is the manager of marketing. I've listened in on the St. John's Transportation Commission, who discussed the problem on Friday. But the announcement from Metrobus was simply that, they don't need to consult with the public on this. It's a safety issue, and they're taking it out. And that was the end of the matter.
Well, this is the way to get it out. If you weren't able to, maybe, hopefully, and I'm sure people are listening, maybe someone from Metrobus can give us a shout. They're usually
I hope. Yeah.
They're usually very responsive, there's no reason why they wouldn't want to explain this. That's a high traffic area. There's a lot of people use that stop. I get my coffee right across the street most mornings, and I've seen, I know that area like back of my hand. So I know what you're talking of. I don't quite understand why. I'd like to know why. It's fair just to know why they make a decision like that. So hopefully they're listening, and hopefully we get some response.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Renee. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Thanks, you too. Dave, going to break? We got, we'll take a short break here on the bottom of the hour. Coming up, Sarah Worthman with on the No Space for Hate Collective, the rally coming up on Sunday. We got Simeon in the queue on RCMP complaints, and Tina on the latest on the AG report. And Conway Keynes, we haven't had a chat in a while. From Broadcast Days, Conway, you'll remember that. We'll get to all those calls right after the break. I'm Brian Callahan in for Paddy Daly. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the program. Dave, sorry, where are we going? Line? Who do you want me to take? Line 5. And Conway Keynes, you're on the air.
Yes. Good morning to you.
How are you, Conway? Long time no chat.
You phoned in this morning by about this 2-day card that you got going on. And
bit broken up there, Conway. Do you want to move around just a little bit? It may get better, but the line right now is a little bit broken. Well, more than a little bit broken. Just keep moving. Give me a few seconds here before we just see if it's any good, and then we'll maybe come back to you. Dave, I think we've lost them all together now. Bad connection. Conway Keynes, are you there? No, we'll check. What do you want to do? Okay, we'll go to Tina on line 4 and hopefully reconnect with Conway if he can get in a better space for reception. Tina, you're on the air.
Hi, I'm just want to speak about the Auditor General's follow-up report that came out recently, specifically the part of the Office of the High Sheriff.
Yes, go ahead.
I understand in this report that a lot of focus was put on the judgment enforcement and the finance division, the accounts division in the department. Sorry, excuse me for a minute.
No, that's okay.
I'm out of breath here.
Go ahead.
One part of the Office of the High Sheriff is the Court Security Division 2, and it's also a monetary factor of the payroll for all the deputy sheriffs. So travel accommodations, bookings, flights, whatever, goes through that department. And I noticed that none of that, like a lot of that, was left out of the Auditor General's report. And I also noticed that in public interest, the payroll and the payroll of the management from the Office of the High Sheriff should concern people. It's taxpayers' dollars. And there was nothing mentioned in this Auditor General's report about conduct, the conduct of the Sheriff's Office.
Well, unless it actually goes against the authority invested in them, it wouldn't necessarily make a report for the Auditor General unless, and even some of the, or more, what's the word for it, egregious things that have occurred, whether or not you've seen in former Auditor General's reports, such as spending beyond the pale or, money or expenses or dinners or whatever it may be, unless it probably goes outside of the regulation and the rules, it might not always make it into the report, although these are long, exhaustive reports. I didn't read the entire report on the Office of the High Sheriff. I do recall various issues with it, whether or not it was some undetected areas potentially increasing the risk of undetected error or fraud, but they never get into the specifics of those things. They say there were risks And, money, their difficulty failing to collect money that's often owed to the provincial treasury. That's the office of the High Sheriff's responsibility to collect various fines and other money that you have to pay to the court, whether or not it's a fine or other stipulations from a judgment. So there have been those issues, but again, it's been a little while, and I've seen so many reports in the last few months that it's hard for me to keep track of which one I just looked at.
Absolutely. Yes, well, that's probably my point. And I'm just trying to word this right now. They talk about what goes on and what, they didn't get done. And I absolutely agree with the part in the report that they say how the Justice Department didn't oversee the Office of the High Sheriff, correct? Because I worked there for approximately 11 years, and any time there were staffing issues, there was always a large overturn of staffing issues, including in the Court Security Division where I worked. There were sometimes there were payroll problems. I just feel that there wasn't enough focus on the court security section. Like there's a large portion of money of taxpayers' dollars that gets paid to that. As well as before I left there, I requested. There was problems going on, and I requested that the management there have a respectful workplace meeting. And the Department of Justice let one person that was let go. And I feel it was partly the reason. I could be wrong. They actually let her deny to do a respectful workplace training because of her conduct and her ways of going around. I do think the Auditor General should have put a note in there that the Sheriff's Office is under question of the management conduct. Currently, there are taxpayers' dollars going to one position there now that is over $100,000 being paid. That is taxpayers' money. That is still part of the finances of government.
What position would that be?
And people's money. I'm not going to name the position because I actually have a court case ongoing now. But that person's conduct is in question, and that person is still getting paid from taxpayers' dollars. So that's my money, your money, and everyone's money. I have not gotten answers that I sought out to get. And again, I've been going back and forth with lawyers. But that person's conduct, and that's a huge part of that office there.
Okay, so I don't want to get in there. As you said, you have an ongoing court issue there, so we won't get into the specifics of that, just to be on the safe side.
I won't name it, but I feel like if an Auditor report and Auditor General, and I contacted the Auditor General myself as well previously to this follow-up coming out, I think that there should be more transparency to the public of what really goes on in some of the biggest workplaces, because there's a higher dollar amount that is going through that office, not only in the judgment enforcement and the finance department, and it's still the public's money.
When you mention court security, like your concerns about security, do you mean with regard to that person's position, or do you mean in general as court security? Because I'm down there every day, and it's changed a lot.
Yeah, it has changed a lot over the years. With regards to that person's position and direction and conduct, like I said, it's in question. And also, I wonder if I know when I worked there were a lot of problems with the deputy sheriffs not being able to address certain problems they were having with getting payments done and stuff. And part of the reason that the previous management was let go and they had to refill that position was there was a large interference in her role. Because I did the duties. It was taken away from me, and her role was given to address their toil. And there were situations where it was very frustrating, and she was trying to avoid pay them their overtime. I just wonder, there's a much larger picture than some of these audits come out, and when they do these reviews, there was a review done of the Sheriff's Office in 2013, the DeRush report, and a lot of what the employees came forward with was not in the report. And I'm guessing if they interviewed any deputy sheriffs and their frustrations, and again, it all reflects to the money and who's being paid and who's not being paid to fill these roles and complete them as they should be. If you can't reach someone and you have concerns, and actually a security risk is probably even higher because you're helping the public. You're trying to keep the public safe when you're going back and forth in the court. Yep. These deputy sheriffs and stuff. So I feel like I don't know if they even talked to any deputy sheriffs to let them have a say in it, because to my understanding, they're not even able to reach people.
I'm sure the Denise Hanrahan and her staff at the Auditor General's office, at her office, they're given access to talk to the people they need to talk to. They're given access. I mean, I've sat through these, and I know what you're saying. These reports come out. The government has already seen them. So this is after the fact. They already have the responses from government. It gets into the weeds in some places. We know staffing is an issue, massive issue everywhere, let alone in the courts, let alone with the high sheriff. It goes as deep as judges. It goes to clerks. I see it every day. And when you're talking that security, you're right, you hit the nail on the head. When you're talking that their actual job is the security of the people and the courts and the people who are down around there in that kind of volatile environment, you don't need those other stresses that come with whether or not people are doing their jobs, whether or not they're able to do their jobs, whether or not they have enough staff to be able to properly and safely do their jobs. Those issues have been...
Absolutely. And they sorry to interrupt you, and they've been taking staff away from the court security to fill administrative roles in the Office of the High Sheriff, which again limits the staff to protect the public. There are actually deputy sheriffs that have had to fill the roles, which never should be happen. So justice really needs to step up to the plate and make sure these positions are filled. They need to make sure some environments are not toxic to work in, because that's part of the reason of the overstaff down there. Many people before me and myself have addressed it, but they pick and choose what they want to implement.
Yeah,
it just has a domino effect.
And it's a tough environment. Let's not kid ourselves. This isn't cubicles, in an office on the 5th or 6th floor of Federation Building. No offense. This is the courts. It's security screening. You're dealing with people who are accused of serious crimes, minor crimes, all mixing together down there. It can be very tense, and at times the security is heightened because of maybe a particular inmate that's coming in who has a higher level of risk than others. It is dynamic. It's changes by the minute. And, obviously they need to have whatever resources they need in that kind of environment to avoid, God forbid, security systems that went... Absolutely. Right. And the security systems that went in. I mean, I remember the days of just walking through with no screening whatsoever. And at least that's been instituted. But again, it doesn't replace the human being.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, like I said, it'll have a domino effect. If they're not paying attention to that, I mean, then it's a huge liability. Then there's lawsuits. Then there's, like I said, it just goes down the line. Yeah. So that's taxpayers' dollars that need to be addressed. And it starts from the Office of the High Sheriff. If you can't reach someone to try to address a problem, and the Department of Justice is just not listening. Like, it's not helpful, and it's in the long run, it just ends up being more dollars having to be paid, and we're already in such challenging situations.
Tina, I appreciate the call. I got to get off to the break, but yeah, I mean, whether or not Justice Department is listening, they certainly say they are attuned to these, because they give responses to these Auditor General critiques. And they're included in the actual Auditor General report. So whether they're listening, they're certainly reading. Whether they're listening and will act remains to be seen. I do appreciate the call. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me on. Great. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
And Dave, what are we doing? Off to the break. And when we come back, we'll try to reconnect with Conway Caines. I'm Brian Callahan in for Patty on Open Line today. We will be right back. And welcome back to the program. Let's try to reconnect now with the one and only Conway Caines on line 5. Conway, let's try again.
Yes, Brian.
Oh, that's better. Now? Yes, sir. Clear. Coast is clear. Give her.
Yes, Brian. I phoned in on this 2-day cod fishery that they're talking about, putting factory freezers and everything back into.
I haven't heard the factory freezer word, that particular term yet.
What do you think offshore is?
Well, absolutely. I just haven't heard the term said. You kind of gave me a shiver then when you said it, but go ahead.
Offshore freezers. That's
yep.
That's what it is.
How else are they going to produce it at sea? Yeah, you got it.
But anyway, I mean, we're here in 4R. In the Gulf, and I own a ground fish license that allows me to fish 4R, ST, and 2J. Now, they put in their custodial money, whatever they want, up there.
Keep moving around, Conway. I'm losing you again a little bit.
Well, they drove us out of it up there. And now they're going to open it all back up. And they got us here in 4R closed down for the last 3 years. We're not allowed to go cod fishing. So, like, when they opens this up, is we going to be allowed to use our ground fish license too?
I guess, judging by previous callers, it depends on if there's an election in the offing. People are already saying that this should have never happened. You can't win. So you either open it or you don't. You open it to a limited amount or you don't. Or, as you're saying, in 4R and the redfish, the Unit 1, I mean, that's just salt in the wound now, is it?
Well, I don't redfish. I don't got a dragger. I got a multi-species boat, but I don't. I mean, they got us closed at the end of the moratorium. And we got years. And I'm opening up 2 days. I want my license reinstated. If not, the federal government can come out and give me $50,000 and tell me, well, your card is no longer. Because this is absolutely ridiculous. If we got federal licenses, we have federal licenses. And if the federal zone opens up, the federal licenses should be used or discriminating against us.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like a whole lot of people are going to just lay down. I mean, I've had callers off the air just over this week telling me that they're going fishing anyway. Again, right, we're back into this situation where people are just too frustrated and they will fish outside their license if they feel they have a right to it, which is just going to cause even more problems. So when you open up a little for some and don't give any to others, this is the way it happens, and it's such a small amount, 18,000 tons compared to, say, historically 250,000 tons pre-moratorium. It just seems to fly in the face of all the science, even though they're saying they're following the science.
They don't follow science. If they followed science, our herring fishery wouldn't be as in here in 4. When I told them that years ago that they had to cut the quota on the herring, they all got mad. But fish, and when they didn't even drop the measure for living, and all that, then they had the big corporations like me.
Conway, I'm going to have to. Yeah, it must be hard on the ears of our listeners too. I'm really sorry, Conway. We're going to have to try to leave it there, only because it's in and out, and we're only catching a quarter of what you're saying, so to speak. Catch a quarter of what you're saying, or catch a quarter of what you're getting off your trawler. Sorry about that. We'll try to get a better line, Conway, and even maybe try to get back to you a little bit later. Right now, we're just going to jump real quick before we get up to the news at Brian Medora. Sarah Worthman, No Space for Hate Collective, rally on Sunday. Sarah, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So essentially I'm calling in today to chat about our rally that was supposed to be happening today at the pedestrian mall, but Newfoundland weather strikes again, so we've had to bump it to Sunday. But essentially we're calling for folks from all parts of the province to come out and show support of the 2S LGBTQ plus community. We are kind of facing an unprecedented rise in hate, and support for our community is actually on the decline across Canada. And so if we have any chance at actually fighting this rise in hate, we really need other folks to stand up with us. And so that's kind of our main goal with the march, is going out in public, showing people that we're not scary monsters or so these myths and misinformation on social media like to say, but we're just people, and we need their support if we want to keep our rights from being rolled back.
Yeah, people have to get over themselves and get over their biases and mind their own business sometimes. If it's not something, it's not your cup of tea, why do you have to express anything against it or for it? Or it just boggles the mind. I mean, it's sad, first of all, that these marches and demonstrations and calls for unity have to even be made. You got rained out today. What can you tell us about where and when on Sunday?
So Sunday it's going to be at 11:30 in the morning, starting at Harborside Park, and we're going to finish up around 1:30 in the afternoon. And yeah, we'd love to see folks there. We've got a great lineup of speakers. Bring your posters, bring your water bottles and sunscreen, because not that today is any indication, but it's supposed to be really warm on Sunday as well. So just make sure you're all ready to go, and we'd love to see some folks out there.
That's great. Sarah Worthman with No Place for the Hate Collective. Rally on Sunday, 11. Just go again. Just give me one more time. 11:30, beginning at Harborside Park.
11:30, Harborside Park, exactly.
Okay. Sarah Worthman, thanks so much. Good luck with the weather. Not today, but hopefully on Sunday. All right, that's Sarah Worthman with the. What do you want to do, Dave? Do you want to go with the? No Space for Hate Collective? Do you want to go to another call, or will you go to Mr. Medor? What do you want to do? All right, off to news. Mr. Medor, are you? Hopefully, he's in the booth. Otherwise, we'll throw something at him through the glass. He's good to go. Brian Medor with the news. We'll be right back. I'm Brian Callahan, in for Paddy Daly. We'll be back after the news.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
And welcome back to the show. Brian Callahan in for Paddy Daly. Let's go right to line number 6. Tony, you are on the air.
Yes, sir. I was wondering about the Advanced Health Directive, a living will. Can you explain to me, or can any listeners out there be able to get in contact with me and just let me know how this works?
Well, let's see. First of all, I know you're calling on that subject, and I'm trying to brush up myself because it's been a little while since I even looked at that off the top of my head. Right. Just briefly, though, you have a personal stake in this, do you not?
Yes, in a way, yeah. But the thing is,
so it's basically a written statement.
Say if I didn't have a living will,
yeah,
and say I passed away without this living will, okay, what rights? Say I got 7 siblings, all right. So does that go to a substitute decision maker? Go back to a substitute decision maker where all 7 can make a decision then?
So anyone who wants to provide instructions, or sorry, excuse my throat, worse than Joe Biden last night, who wants to set out general principles about their healthcare treatment or who they wish to designate. Basically, you have to, and I know this from previous, stories and I've done on insurance claims and all that sort of thing. You designate a substitute decision maker, an SDM. Right. You'll see in a lot of documents. You'll see the SDM, who would make that directive. And when you have 6 or 7 siblings, it can get a mess, and I know that just from being in court. There are more than enough, disputes in court over relatives, and just because not necessarily there was any animosity, but because nothing was put in place, especially in a living will. So right. So the directive itself is just a written statement of your healthcare wishes, and obviously get a lawyer to look at it, but I can't. That's my general knowledge of it. You can make it, I think, if you're 16 or age of over, you can make the directive. So you can designate, as long as you're 16, at least 16 or over, I think that's the age. And then there's special rules that apply to that. But, basically it's to, just make sure that your wishes are respected by your healthcare, whoever it is, your doctor, your nurse, or your family members. The key thing, though, I know, is appointing a substitute decision maker who can make those decisions in your absence. And you'd want to run that all by a lawyer and make sure they know what they're talking about.
Oh yeah, for sure. But what my concern is about this substitute decision maker. Say you got 7 is going to make the decision, right. And 4 is the majority. So have they got they ruled whatever they say? The other 3 haven't got a say into it.
That's a tough one. Like I said, I don't want to pretend to be an expert on this at all. I'm just going off the top of my head from what I recall. I know 2 people I think have to witness the signature. The witnesses can't be appointed They can't be your substitute decision maker or the substitute decision maker's spouse. I know that. This is more of a lawyer, I think, legal thing to make sure, just to call, dot your I's and cross your T's. I wish I were an expert on it. I know general knowledge about most things that I cover in the run of a day, or that I have. I've never done, I have need for, of course, an advanced healthcare directive either. I'm sure there are people out there with intimate knowledge of this, and if anything I said is inaccurate, I'm sure I'll hear about it. But outside of that, sorry, go ahead.
If there's someone out there, right, that can come in and give us some knowledge of that, right?
Yep.
Like I said, here's 7. The majority is supposed to rule, and whatever the other 4 says, if they get, the other 3, if they don't agree with what the other 4 are saying, they haven't got no opinion on it or no say on it.
Now, is that a fact from your own?
There's got to be something wrong with that picture, right?
Is that
I'm still got a voice.
Is that a fact from your personal situation that you're in right now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so you had, as you said, 7, and the majority can make the decision?
4, 4 can make decisions.
Right.
The other 3, we had our opinions and we couldn't make no. Yeah.
Okay, my understanding was the substitute decision maker lays down those ground rules, and then you go from there. And so, if I'm the person who is in need of care, needs that advanced healthcare directive, and I want someone to make sure that they're going to follow my wishes, and I appoint that substitute decision maker, then generally you're specifying how you want this to play out, and you're saying that that's not the case in your situation.
No, well the thing is, it's supposed to be a living will, and you haven't got this living will, right, to go by the person's decision what they want.
No, you're giving that decision. You're giving that authority to the substitute decision maker.
Well, yes, and the substitute decision maker is all 7 of us, right? But and then it comes down to say if you don't agree with something that say 4 decision makers are making, the 3 haven't got no say.
I guess that's something. Yeah, and if it's all siblings, you'd think everybody would have been on that discussion when the decision was made in the first place. I mean, these aren't small things. Once this decision is made and you actually come together as a family and say, here is our substitute decision maker, we either agree or we don't. And if we don't agree, it doesn't matter, because the person who appointed this person gave that person the authority to do what they wanted for them and to follow their wishes.
Well, in this case, like I said, yes. But this spokesperson is supposed to come back to the rest 6 of us and tell us, and then we make a decision. Not just the 4 of them go ahead and make a decision, and the other ones is left in the loop, right. Because,
So there's also a stipulation that says, and I just called this up trying to find something that a little bit more authoritative, so I'm not just speaking out of certain parts of my anatomy. If you appoint multiple substitute decision makers and you want them to act jointly, which sounds like your case, as opposed to successively, so one instead of another, then you must indicate that in your directive. So was that done?
No.
That wasn't done. So I get that might be the issue. I mean, I don't know if there's a way to revisit that. I mean, obviously the person you're speaking about is with you right now, I assume?
No, he's not. No.
Oh, okay. I thought. Okay, but the person you are referring to, this is how it would have played out. Again, it's stated there if you appoint multiple, and this sounds like were all 7 appointed as substitute decision makers in the initial phase?
Well, if you say the person dies and left their siblings behind, the 7 is automatically substitute decision makers.
Well, not automatically according to the directive I'm looking at. It just says if you appoint multiple decision makers, substitute decision makers, and you want them to act jointly, so all in agreement, you must indicate that on your directive. Now, whether or not when the time comes everybody agrees and says, yeah, we all agree with the one decision, that's another issue. And we know that doesn't always happen.
No, that's right. No, that don't always happen.
So, I mean, we can debate this all day on Open Line, but I would suggest, obviously, that if you haven't, consult a lawyer or even just an immediate healthcare professional, such as the personal, the family doctor. But a lawyer would have a better idea of how this goes. I mean, once you get into issues of who's making decisions in a living will and after the fact, that's tangly stuff. That's court stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially with estates and everything else that may be in, because a lot of these disputes end up in court over, you guessed it, money.
Yeah, all good money, isn't it?
It is. Yep.
Yeah, the almighty dollar. Yeah.
You got it.
Control of everything. Yep.
Right.
No doubt. All right. Very good. Okay.
Tony, good luck. Like I said, get some authoritative, opinion on this. Even if there are lawyers out there who'll give you pro bono advice on this stuff and tell you where you should go with it, especially if there's a dispute, and maybe you can avoid the courts.
Well, I was hoping that some listeners out there listened to this and went through basically the same thing that I'm going through right now, right?
Yeah, and Dave
could call in, right, and give me some.
Yeah, and Dave just reminded me too of the plan. The Public Legal Information Association. Yeah, they give you free advice too. PLEAN. I know the acronym. Let me see. You got that number, Dave, real quick. I had it here. And only because all morning flying by the seat of my pants here.
Patty, please. Yeah.
Let me check. Let's do it a quick. Here we go. Give you the quick number if you want to. Just give them a shout. 722.
Yeah.
2643.
2643.
And that'll just be the initial call. Just tell them, that this is your issue and you want some questions about it. They'll surely direct you in the right direction.
Okay, I'll try first. I'll go first, yeah.
And thanks to Dave there for reminding me about that. The Public Legal Information Association of Newfoundland and Labrador. Anybody can give them a call if you ever have any general question about how to, if you have a legal issue of any kind. So they're a wealth of information.
Okay, that sounds great. Okay, thanks for your information.
Okay. Thanks, Danny. Okay, Tony, have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Good luck with that. Okay.
Thanks.
Sorry, Dave, where am I going? Right on. Okay, we're going to take a break. We're at the quarter. Let's see, about 45 minutes left in the show. That flew. Coming up, we'll have Placentia Mayor Keith Pearson's on the queue. Going to talk about the ferry service issues again with Marine Atlantic. Simeon, we still got you there. We'll get to you right away. And Pam Parsons as well with an update on infrastructure and the Canada Games. That's all after the break. And welcome back to the show. Let's go right to line number 4. Pam Parsons, the MHA for Harbour Grays, Portagrave, and Minister responsible for Women and Gender Equality. You are on the air.
Good morning, Brian, and thanks for taking my call, and certainly good morning to all of our listeners, and happy Friday to everyone, even though the rain is pouring down.
Very same to you. Are you in your district or in city?
I am in my district. You're actually here in Bay Roberts, in my home.
And coming down in buckets out there, too.
It is, yeah, it really is. So anybody on the highway, on the Veterans Memorial, or traveling the TCH, certainly, be careful out there for the hydroplaning.
Yeah, lights on, moose eyes on, and, I know we're kind of lacing into the weather here, but boys, the forests could use it. Let's just say that.
Exactly, and that said too, certainly, my prayers and thoughts are with the people of Labrador, what they're experiencing and having to evacuate and even losing their power. I mean, even just that fear alone. And of course, for the people who are on the ground doing the work, to get this under control and of course keep power in place. So our thoughts and prayers are with them in Labrador, what they're experiencing with these wildfires.
Absolutely.
But Brian, I also want to pay my respects, of course, to the unknown soldier. As we know, it's happened in other provinces, other jurisdictions, and it's going to be happening here in Newfoundland and Labrador, here in St. John's, as we know, on Memorial Day. And, of course, with a wake service happening and a military-style funeral happening on Memorial Day for that to repatriate the soldier. So that certainly will be a heartfelt, emotional event. And I'd like to thank everybody who made this happen. I mean, we know that there are key players in the Legion who have been advocating for this for some time. So hats off to Minister Crocker and his team and everyone who has come together, of course, to make this happen. I'm looking forward to taking that event in. It's certainly going to be an emotional, heartfelt event in our history. So I am looking forward to that. But my respects, of course, and to all of our ward and all those who continue to serve, because as we know, our rights and the quality of life that we know in beautiful Newfoundland and Labrador and across our country would not be possible if it weren't for these people who went and made the ultimate sacrifice. So certainly thank you for all that they do. And we'll always remember those, lest we forget.
Hear, hear.
So that's coming up. And I'll be taking in a number of services. There will be services put up for the Legions here in the district of Harbour Grace, Portagrave on Sunday. I will be taking them all. It will be a very busy day. I'm planning on attending each and every one of them before I can get in on Monday, of course, for Memorial Day. But I wanted to make some announcements and just to update my constituents here. As we know, it's construction season. Summer means construction work, so paving. And I'm happy to say some top priorities are going to be sought to this summer. For example, Brian's Cove Road and Upper Island Cove is a big one that both towns, Brian's Cove as well as Upper Island Cove, have been advocating for. Of course, I've been working with them, and I'm happy to say that we're going to get that road started this summer, that new paving on Brian's Cove Road on the Upper Island Cove side, moving into Brian's Cove. So that's long awaited, and I'm glad to see it happen. Last year we were good to get Bay Roberts paved, as we know, and also the Portagrave Peninsula, and just in time, Brian, for the Newfoundland Labrador Summer Games that we're going to
took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, so the Newfoundland Labrador Summer Games for the first time in history are going to be hosted here in Bay Roberts. And there's going to be a collaboration team approach going on, of course, because we'll be using facilities in other communities such as Harbour Grace. Upper Island Cove is going to be used for its baseball facilities. I know Clark's Beach is also going to be utilized. And so, it's a team effort out here in Conception Bay North. So that's happening from the 10th, to kicking off the August 10th week to the 17th. And at this time, too, I just attended an award ceremony in the town of Bay Roberts just the other night. And many of those volunteers who I saw at that award ceremony just the other night have signed up and have been dedicated and have been working year-round in preparation for the games to make this, the absolute best games that we can coming in August. So thank you so much to our volunteers, because ultimately, Brian, I can't say enough about the volunteer power. I mean, it cannot happen successfully. So we'll be showcasing our district here, Harbour Grace, Portagrave, as well as Conception Bay North, our region here. We'll have the finest athletes and volunteers and coaches from across Newfoundland and Labrador here. So I certainly, I'm really excited for this. We all are. There's going to be a lot of great things to take in while they're here, of course. Head on down to scenic Portagrave. There's lots to see there, of course. Historic Harbour Grace, and you name it. There's lots to do. Not to mention, we have the regatta also as well, the Harbour Grace Regatta, which is the second oldest continuing sporting event in North America. So there's going to be lots of things happening here in my district, along with the paving and the road work. Jamie's Way is also going to be paved in Harbour Grace. That's coming down there from the stadium, from the Dan Cleary Centre. So, and also, Brian, I'm happy to have my colleague join me here next week, Minister John Abbott, Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure, and we're going to be making an infrastructure announcement actually next week here in my district, which will impact multiple communities here, in particular Spaniards Bay and Upper Island Cove, for this particular announcement next week. We're also going to be meeting with stakeholders for the update on Holy Redeemer Elementary School, what's happening there. As we know, Brian, the school had been closed down in May, just prior to the May 24th weekend or around that mark, when a suspicious odor has been detected. And so I'm told that work is ongoing. I get briefings regularly, of course, from the Department of Transportation Infrastructure. The officials are doing that work. I know there's drilling happening. There's air quality testing to labs. They've also put in an industrial hygienist, but I'm having the minister come out actually to meet with some stakeholders. So we'll be meeting with the town council of Spaniards Bay, Tilton, also some residents and members of the principal will be joining us as well. She'll be invited to join as well as the a parent from the student council, to keep everybody informed on what's happening, because we can appreciate, people are wondering what's on the go through school, and they want to know what's happening and when students can safely get back in that building. So again, I want to reiterate our commitment. I've met with the Premier on this, as well as the Minister of Education and Transportation and Infrastructure, that the goal certainly is to safely determine this issue, what the issue is, fix it safely as soon as possible to get that school back open. Of course, it services a student population of about 300, and so it's a beautiful school. I actually went to that school, Brian, when I was, my hometown, Spaniards Bay, growing up here is where I started. And, many people are very passionate about that. It's a great community, school community. And so that's the update on that. So, again, the commitment is there, of course, to get that school reopened safely as soon as possible. An
update, Pam, just quickly on that, an update really without much of an update. Like, it's been more than 2 months. Do we know even what caused the smell, this gas smell? At this point, technology being what it is, can they at least narrow down where it's coming from?
Well, that's the thing, right? And that's where people are I guess there's some confusion and maybe even some concern and maybe even frustration growing because there
definitely
hasn't been,
frustration.
You know, it has not been determined exactly where it's coming from. But what I have been told by Jim Sinnott and his team, leading the officials who are doing this work, is that they have been able to rule out any gasoline leak. Adjacent to Holy Redeemer School, there is a gas station, but they have ruled out that it is not coming from that property. So that's something that has been ruled out, and I'm happy to, that's at least been determined. But again, I actually saw the equipment. They had the equipment on site just the other day, where they were actually drilling down. They were going to be drilling into the gymnasium floor, and so I actually saw the equipment on site doing that. So again, I'm like everybody else. I'm awaiting updates daily on what's happening. But again, we have the minister coming out. I thought it was important to invite him out here, to meet with our stakeholders, because certainly it is certainly a transparent process. And again, there was some concern, but it's important to say that we're committed, obviously, to keeping the school open and open safely. And obviously, safety is paramount. So that's what's happening on that front.
Yeah, I guess the question is what's going to happen in the fall, right? Parents are wondering what happens in the fall, and you can no indication what the plan might be, whether or not the status quo as the end of this year played out, or what? No indication, or when they might know, so parents can appropriately plan.
Exactly. So that's been, Minister Abbott has communicated that to me, that the teams of transportation are meeting with education to get plans in place should Holy Redeemer not be able to open as scheduled when the school year is scheduled.
Got it.
So I do know that the two departments are meeting to iron out a plan. That said, too, I want to hats off again and thank the team of the schools in our neighboring communities that have come together to support the students and staff from Holy Redeemer, that being All Hallows School in North River, as well as Bay Roberts Primary and St. Peter's and Upper Island Cove. They've stepped up. And I've also heard some positive stories that students have got to, they've got to go to their neighboring school, neighboring schools, make new friends and have a new experience. But that said, we want to get Holy Redeemer open safely as soon as possible. And certainly as MHA, I'm committed to doing everything I can to help make that happen.
Pam Parsons, MHA for Harbour Grace, Port de Grave. Thanks for the call. Got to get off to a quick call now before the news break. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, let's go quickly. Dave, take Simeon just before the break. Simeon Chakapesh, you are on the air.
Good morning, Brian.
How are you? Long time no talk?
Yeah, long time no talk. I'm from Davis Inlet, and I just want to introduce myself, and I also want to do it in my own language. Misschien met de Brian, dat je met mij call maak, dus in het hoogste deel kan maar great studies I just said that thank you, Brian, for taking my call, and I also want to talk about how the RCMP are policing with both communities and what I've seen, it's totally unacceptable how the RCMP police our own Taino communities. I've been over the years. I think most of us, have gone get a proper education, able to speak English, and able to see rights and wrong under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms of Canada, and for the years, I have heard the systemic racism by RCMP that they practice in Old Davis Inlet and Davis Inlet and Natoshish and Shadid itself. And I cannot speak for the Inuit up north coast of Labrador, but I can only speak my experience, what I heard from my own fellow Inuit people. One of the things that I was very shocked and to see today in this day and age, like I thought the racism was dealt with by the RCMP and even Canada, federal government, to deal with this ongoing problems with Indigenous people across the country of Canada, how they deal with us as an Aboriginal people. One of the things that I couldn't believe. The incident happened here this week, this following week, early week, and it happens to be one of my own family. My biological sibling, my daughter was assaulted by a rock and knocked down, and she tried to file a complaint to the RCMP detachment here in Shehadji Down Reservation. And the officer of our RCMP at the detachment was very disrespectful. She wasn't culturally sensitive, and the person that tried to file the complaint, the former complaint, she has struggled with English, but her English is not that bad. But her education she only has grade 9, I think. And that's another stumbling block for our people, and especially our elders. They don't speak English at all, some of them, and barely can communicate with non-Aboriginal people. But I think there's a systemic racism, and how the RCMP perceived us as Innu people. We are not savages. We're not animals, and I want to make clear for that. And I also want to make it clear that we know right and wrong, and we know I see the past experience. I heard the stories from my own people in Natoshish. When I was a band chief, I had a host of public hearings against the RCMP, how they treated my members in Natoshish. But today is still going. It's still happening, and I don't know when the cycle is going to end, and when is the systemic racism that's going to be corrected. And I know Canada is pretty much a contract with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to police the both Innu communities in Natoshish. I mean, the system of RCMP itself, that they are practicing racist ideologies over the years in Davis and Shajit, and these practices and habits are accepted forms of misconduct go over those ideologies, evolving into the prejudice, oppression, and disproportionately violent system by the RCMP, and they don't have no respect for the Innu people, and I think that needs to be visited. And I was going to protest in front of the RCMP detachment here in Shajit, but I did manage to go through the protocol and file a formal complaint, enlarged complaint against a member, how he treated with the person that I mentioned over the airwaves, and that's got to be. It's got to be visited because they miserably failed us as Innu people. And I don't believe they are here for us. And they are there to maintain law and order for the Canadian government, not by Aboriginal people.
Simeon, whether it's been removing Indigenous children from their families and their land and their culture, whether it's trying to police Indigenous people with our own colonial policing habits and forces that the white people have brought to our land ourselves, it's always been a problem. It's always going to be issues. Racism, on another scale, how do you get past it? And I mean, look, you mentioned Davis Inlet off the top. A lot of people most people know, but I mean, Davis Inlet was the community, the Mushwa Innu Band community. Of course, we know tragically, and I'm back to 1992, the fire that ultimately forced your leadership and leadership from the community to ask for the move of the community, which it did, and became and moved to Natoshish. So these things go so deep, and it's good to hear you. I mean, we ran into each other in a hospital a short time ago when we ran across paths. How's your health? How are you doing these days?
My health, I'm getting there. I'm starting talking more. I started to get a big mouth more. My brain is working again. I'm starting to thinking straight, and I'm becoming healthy, and I'm becoming stronger. But at the same time, I see more evidence how my people are being treated. They've been mistreated and not been respected by the justice system, healthcare, Child Welfare Act, and I mean, to mention the physical and psychological effects of surviving of these violent assaults, that's been long-lasting, persuasive, extremely disruptive of the Innu people over the years from Davis Inlet, Natoshish, and today still happening. Because a lot of us, I know there's a couple of people died in the cells in Natoshish and one in Goose Bay, our people, and God knows what transpired in that cells. Well, these persons were crying for health care while they're in cells and eventually died in cell. And nobody's not going to know that until we really want to get a disclosure and get proper investigations, and due diligence has to be considered. And I think that's very, very important, because we cannot be victims all the time. We need justice as well. We are humans, and I think that's being very members. Some of the RCMPs are very friendly and very respectful. Some of them, there's a few bad apples. I'm not saying that this is a perfect quarrel, but what I'm saying is there's got to be some mutual understanding and mutual respect. Who you're dealing with, and I deal with non-Aboriginal people. I respect them, who they are, and I don't judge them. I don't discriminate them, and that's how we were brought in both communities by our elders and our parents. But there's no need to be disrespectful who you're working with and who you're dealing with. But I think it's the psychological effects are still there. What are we going to do? And I know. Well, a few incidents that was it's not a hearsay what I'm telling you. It's a fact. In public hearings we heard from the elders that what happened to them. One of the ladies was arrested. The lady was arrested in downtown Ashish, and she was dragged by her head downstairs and lost her pants on the way. And one lady said that. She asked for the RCMP to get a clean drinking water while she was lodged in the cell, and she said she was given a piss water. And so these kind of incidents are very disturbing, and it's got to be looked into. And I'm glad you took my call, and we'll leave it from there and see what happens.
Simeon, I always welcome your call. Your voice is incredibly important into the discussions that we have here on Open Line for the entire province, especially on this issue. We have a long way to go, and when you throw the justice issues in on top of it all, it's just a powder keg, and for everyone as far as the justice issues, but especially from the level that the Innu Nation has to battle back from, and Indigenous people. Simeon, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for the call. Take care of yourself.
Take care, Brian. Have a good holiday.
Thank you. You too. Let's take that quick break, Dave. Long overdue, and we'll come back with Placentia Mayor Keith Pearson.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
And welcome back to the program, into the home stretch for this last day of the week on Open Line. On Friday, back to the lines. Line number one, Placentia Mayor Keith Pearson, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. Thanks for taking my call.
No worries at all, Keith.
Giving you a quick call here this morning regarding the latest announcement on Marine Atlantic and the inability for them to get the Alisu in the Argentia run as planned. Brian, what shocks me the most about this is a large corporation like Marine Atlantic not to have a secondary plan in place, knowing that this new ship had came on, and with the troubles that the run's into now, and no end date in sight, as you know, and on your news there today, they really are running into one problem after another, and it's not looking good for the Argentia run this year.
It does.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead, Keith. I thought you were close.
Customer confidence in the Argentia run now. I mean, who's going to book a sailing into Argentia now any time for the remainder of the summer? Not with all the uncertainty that's currently around. This is the third announcement. We had June the 15th. We moved that to June the 26th. We moved that to July 3rd. Now it's moved to July 10th. Everything is cancelled, and they really can't nail down nothing after that. So if anybody was booking, if I was booking a crossing into Newfoundland or leaving from Argentia, I would certainly not book nothing there, because there's no faith in that it's actually going to happen. And then people got to turn around and try to make other arrangements to get all the way back across the island to get a boat off the island. The quick solution: they got the ferries one of the ferries that are currently on the Port of Bass run. It's time for them to put one in the Argentia run and put some confidence back into the service that Marine Atlantic is providing here and the Argentia run.
Keith, on a very obvious geography here, just for people who don't know, I mean, Placentia and Argentia are inextricably linked. You're minutes away from each other, and that's a huge boon whenever that ferry docks or leaves. give me an idea. Just give the public an idea what it means every day that there's no dock and no passengers coming through.
Well, the amount of people, 500, 600 people, coming on the ferry, each trip. Now you're looking at, we're hoping for an increase this year because the numbers had moved up to probably 800-900 per trip per sailing coming into the area. I mean, you're looking at 1,600 people on average per week that would travel through not only our community, the whole Avalon region. I spoke to somebody outside of my community of Placentia that lives that has a B&B in St. Bride's, and on the first cancellation alone, 23 rooms were cancelled. Now you're talking about a small community in Outport, Newfoundland, that relies on this season, these 3 months, to actually make it for the year. I mean, we come off of COVID only a short while ago, and people are getting back on their feet, only to be knocked down again. So I think it's time for the federal government to step in here and help, direct Marine Atlantic in getting this, run back in Argentia, whether, you take the Blue Peas or the Ericsson, whichever one fits the best, because, they have done the run here only a short number of years ago. As you know, the province was cut off on the west coast, and they had to get Argentia started up when it was closed down, and we took it in. So they can't say it can't be done because it has been done. So it's time for them to do that. It's time for the federal government to step in. And who's going to compensate all these businesses for lost revenue? Like, they can't make this back up. It's gone. They will not get it back. They're just getting back on their feet, and now it's another hit.
Keith,
so
it seems
the federal government going to compensate them?
It seems to make eminent sense to me to probably at least take one of the ferries. They're talking about the Ericsson and the other two. 3 of them trying to do a rotation on the Port of Basford. It seems like it would make sense to at least try one ferry at this end to accommodate some of the bookings and try to avoid any more cancellations. We will see what Marine Atlantic does. They've set a new target date. I think it's July 10th now. Let's hope they can get it worked out. And we'll touch back with you again, Keith, to see if any of your requests or ideas are taken advantage of.
Well, hopefully Seamus O'Regan, Minister of Labour, or our MHA, Mr. McDonald, can actually start putting some pressure on Marine Atlantic to make these decisions. That we're not just left out, and the people in the Avalon region are not just left out in the cold again. With revenues dropping and trying to make a business go of it.
Yes, sir. Let's hear from our MPs on that as well. It is the federal government service, after all. Keith Pearson, Mayor of Placentia, thanks very much. Going to get off to a quick break and try to get some more calls in. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay.
As mentioned, a quick break here, Dave, and we'll try to squeeze in as many as we can when we get back. Into the speed round for Open Line and the end of the week here. Let's go quickly to Jason in Markland. You're on line 1.
Morning, Brian. How are you today?
Good, Jason. As I've advertised, we've got a couple of minutes with you. Going to try to squeeze in as many as we can.
It'll be quick.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. This annual call regarding Route 81 Markland Road gravel section.
Yep.
Every year I have to call Openline to try to get the road graded. It's 2024. I've been told it's a declassified road down to second or third class road. Therefore, they only grade it twice, probably 3 times a year at most. Well, as I had stated before, I pay first class taxes. And I'm telling you, it is despicable. We live less than an hour from town. There's about 15 families live there full time, and everybody is of the same opinion, just that I end up being the one who got to call Open Line or get NTV or whoever.
Who's your member, Jason?
I think it's Gammon Walsh, but hopefully not for much longer.
Maybe it speaks volumes that you're not sure.
Yeah, well, it do. It's shameful, actually. But anyway, I'm tired of it. Everybody out there is tired of it. I call over the week. I can't even get to speak with a supervisor to find out what is the criteria for decides when they grade the road. The road was upgraded in 2015 halfway. There's 4 kilometers left to do on the road, and they won't do it. And the busiest part of the road is from about half a kilometre south of my house to the pavement in Markland, and that's where everybody lives.
Jason,
I
think
the worst part of the road, and it's terrible.
What you need is you need one straight, very concise correspondence with that MHA, if it is Sherry Gammon Walsh, and you need a strict and let us know if you get any kind of response, and if you don't, then we'll go. Pretty simple. I mean, you should be able to get an explanation.
I'll try again.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be an annual call, right? Yeah, no, it shouldn't be an annual.
So this has been. There's a gentleman from Collinette, Brian, has been advocating for this since he was since Markland Road went through, which is forever, and he got letters dating back 60 years.
We need a forever answer.
It's unreal. Like I'm not even looking for pavement. Grade the road, boy.
Yeah.
Like, it cost me $2,000 last week to get the front end put back on my truck. Like, that's not right.
I hear you. You and others who have.
Right, it's terrible. Yep. It's absolutely. You know what? It's embarrassing. And I hear the mayor for Placentia, and man, I'm telling you, we're in a mess. This whole province is in a mess. I know the country of Canada is, but here in Newfoundland, and we trying to promote tourism. You'll get 2 visits here. Usually, it's first and last if they go outside the city. It's terrible.
Jason, thanks for the call.
Despicable.
I got to get going, but thanks for the call. And look, if you get any kind of correspondence back or response, just a formal, here's why we do what we do, let us know.
That's all I'm looking for. Thanks, Brian. You have a good weekend.
You too. Thanks, Jason. Okay, let's pop on over to Jamie Korab, line 4. You are on the air.
Good day. How are you?
Hey, Jamie. I know you're listening that we're up against the clock, but go for it.
Yeah, no, just wanted to call in. As everyone knows, the viaduct, or certainly anyone that travels to downtown recently and repeatedly, the viaduct, which is in Pitts there, is closed from now until July 21st. So, yeah, as people know, this has had significant implications for all involved, given that Waterford Bridge Road and Old Topsail Road and other streets there in my ward. I fielded dozens. I was replying to an email when you just came over to me, actually. So, you know, we do have routes that these commercial haulers, because that's what a lot of the complaint is. I mean, residential cars can basically go where they want, but there are routes that we do want these commercial haulers or transport trucks to go. And without going through all those, they are on our website, but we prefer them to use, for argument's sake, Duckworth Street, Kingsbridge, Torbay to Outer Ring, going east and going west. We do allow some on Waterford Road, but we're trying to limit that.
Waterford Bridge is so narrow, and so, you know, the speeds and the school there, and very, narrow road, to say the least.
Yeah, and as the residents told me, school is out for the summer, but St. Mary School is where a lot of those kids go and play in the summer. And, you know, you take yesterday on Waterford Road, the narrowest part is by the cemetery, and there was a funeral procession pulled over on the sidewalk. So a road that was barely big enough for 2 cars was down the single lane. So, you know, I guess my message to staff the message to the residents is staff have been in contact with the trucking companies even prior to the 21st when this closed last week, letting them know here are the routes. It is very challenging to enforce this. I mean, the city under the Highway Traffic Act can't enforce this legislatively, and we don't have the staff to do it as such. So it is something that I have asked staff to talk to the RNC. I know the RNC resources are stretched and limited, but nonetheless, because there are certain areas where they are not allowed to go. But again, it's challenging for us to enforce it. So it's frustrating. I appreciate, I understand and appreciate the residents' frustration and, appreciate their patience on this. But, the plan is for this to be done by the 21st. The province tells us it could be done sooner. But we are working with these trucking companies to try to limit this as much as possible.
And 21st of July.
21st of July. So we still got, with Water Street being closed downtown for the pedestrian mall, and now there is some closures on Duckworth Street. So, one of the things we tell people, people have to commune down here through those routes, but anyone looking to come down to the pedestrian mall, or as you talked to the mayor this morning, getting a ride down using public transit, the Village Mall, for argument's sake, the kiss and drop. You get your family to drop you off at the Village Mall, hop on the bus, come down. It's cheap. I mean, it's efficient, and, can get you down there quickly. You don't have to worry about parking. So appreciate the patience from the residents on this.
Yeah, and I appreciate your time and that we're up against the clock. So thanks for the note. We'll get it out there. The viaduct, of course, being the major overpass at the end of Pitts as you go into downtown. Call it the viaduct, CN Viaduct, of course. That's just what it's been colloquial forever. Jamie Korab, thanks again for the note.
My pleasure.
Have a great weekend.
Questions, they can reach out to me. Thanks, you too.
Thanks. Okay, Jamie Korab, and where are we going, Dave? Last caller of the morning. Line 5. Yes, appropriate way to end the show, speaking about the unknown soldier. Go ahead, caller on line 5.
Yes, hello. I'm calling about the ceremony for the unknown soldier. I'm very concerned that he may not be completely honored properly. At no point has anybody indicated that he is going to be decorated. All the soldiers who fought for representing Newfoundland in the Great War received medals. They received the George Medal, the Victory Medal, and the War Star in all of the public relations that have been made to the Newfoundland public about repatriating the soldier. No one has indicated that he's going to be decorated with his medals and then entombed. I'm very concerned that he's not going to be decorated. He's not going to be buried with his medals like all the other soldiers.
I'm not, and just because we're up against the time, and I'll let you go on this, I appreciate you mentioning and bringing it up. Of all the discussions around this, I have not heard that specifically mentioned or spoken to. I know that they have been vigilant, beyond vigilant, about following as the protocol to the line here. So we will ask the question. Thanks for the call. We're done for the show today, but we'll definitely put that question. We've got the whole weekend. We'll be talking to people today at Confederation Building. It's a ceremony already, and the unknown soldier will be lying in state there this afternoon, beginning this afternoon, right up until Monday. Get out, pay your respects, people. He deserves it. We all should be honoring this moment like a generational moment that it is. That's it for Open Line today. Thanks for Patty having me sit in for him on short notice. Drive safely, arrive alive. VOCM cares.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.